Welcome to the How to Hire podcast. My name is Matt Shore, CEO of Stephen Douglas, and I'm your host here today. I've been in the recruiting industry now for 30 years, and I have seen it all. I've seen companies that do an amazing job of becoming employers of choice. And then I've seen companies that are doing a lot of things wrong and have tons of turnover, dissatisfied employees, and it definitely affects the success of their business for sure. Today, I'm very happy to have my friend Scott Moss here, CEO of Moss Construction, and a fellow Gator, also a fellow member of the Young Presidents Organization. And today he's going to talk to us about his family business and how they've grown the company and built an amazing culture. And I've always admired their company because of the retention and just how people speak about them. Scott, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. Excited. You've been a great friend, and thank you for the nice words.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's get into it a little bit. So for those of us who don't know Moss, tell us a little bit about the family business, how it came to be. You guys have an amazing story. So it'd be
Thank you.
to share.
It's a fun story. It's a good business story from the idea of my father, myself, and my brother started the business thinking we want a great place to work at the end of the day. And we thought we'll be a regional contractor, $100 million or so. Today, we have close to 2,000 salary members and 3,000 hourly members in the team. And we're in about 18 different states. And so it's not regional. And we do about $3.7 billion. And next year, we'll crest over $4 billion. As the market's taking us places that we would never have dreamed of. And people ask me sometimes, would you ever think it'd be like this?
I was just going to ask you that. Could you ever have imagined what it would have become?
No, and we don't. One of the things that I do that's not the best is I don't stop and celebrate very often. I'm usually if you and I love football, we don't love college football at this moment, but we love football. And I'm more like the head coach or the offensive coordinator. Once a touchdown gets scored, I literally start walking back to the other end zone because I'm on to the next play. And when you have a business that's kind of set up in perpetuity, that's how you have to behave too. You can't spend too much time in the end zone. That's how I view it. So.
Yeah. Well, one thing, obviously, what we're talking about today is the ability to, attract great talent, retain that talent, grow that talent internally. Yeah. When we've talked in the past, I was asking, like, how did you set it up to be so successful? Like, what did you put in place that has allowed you guys to just have such great retention and really build on, what you started?
Yeah. My dad has had always a reputation of taking care of people, working with people, and giving them great respect. That then now translates into the philosophy of we want to be the most rewarding place in construction industry to work. So when you come at it from that angle, and rewarding always isn't about the most pay, but it may be about autonomy. It may be about people have some freedom to make some calls that when you get into larger corporations, they don't allow that to happen. So when you look at how we have set up the business, we are really focused on that team member experience more so than we're focused on the customer experience, because you can't have customers without really great team members. And so we are in a service business. And so when you think about the idea of how Moss is set up, our first kind of main purpose of the whole business is empower to create the exceptional. We empower our team for them to create the exceptional, not only for their team members, but also for the customer, the vendors, and the community around them.
So the order is, if we have great employees who feel empowered and have that entrepreneurial spirit that you guys have, that the customer is going to get a great experience.
Yes.
But it can't be the other way around. They've got to believe in it. They got to be a part of it.
Yeah. I think especially in the service business, it has to be that way. I'll give you another example how I see Amazon. Amazon is so focused on the customer. It does everything it can for the customer. And as customers, I feel it. Like, I'm a huge Amazon fan. Now, I don't know that they necessarily, think it's going to be great for the employee. and they also don't care so much about the shareholder. They do what's doing right for what's around the customer. And when you think about that E, the C, and the S, the shareholders, you have to figure out which one you're going to serve to have a long-term business. And our strategy is to serve the team members and make it a great place to work. And you get the best talent, and you will serve the clients better because you have the best talent. And eventually the shareholders will get a really good return. And our shareholders have got a really good return, fortunately.
Yeah, and you think what's the cost of not having a good culture and not having a happy team?
Correct.
I mean, you're in an industry, I'm in an industry where there's a ton of turnover. And you know, I think companies forget about what got them where they are today, which is their team members, and they don't treat them properly. And you know, sometimes when things are not going the right way, you know, they treat them really poorly, and then they have turnover, right? And then who feels it? The customer winds up, you're not on time, you're not on budget, and now you got all kinds of problems, right? Because now you're not retaining customers either.
Correct.
So then what happens, right? It's a spiral.
Yes. And I think over time, we've been so fascinated, and finance has been so important in our last 40 years that over time we've forgotten that a lot of the driver is a respect for labor, and we've had this overbalance of respect for capital for the past probably 30 years. And so we try and respect the people that are getting the work done. And you have to give capital its respect as well. So you can't ignore one and totally pay attention to the other. I think over time, businesses have given a huge respect to capital, so much so that they've forgotten that people really would drive the business, especially service businesses.
And your business is pretty decentralized, right? Because most of your employees, I mean, obviously have a large corporate presence, but then you have this huge field presence spread all over the place. I mean, how many projects are you guys working on at any given time?
About 120 at any given time, all over the country in 18 different states. And yes, we're very decentralized. And you know, we do have offices in South Florida, Tampa, Dallas, Hawaii, and then we have job sites in between all of those places. And those are all solar job sites. Our belief is a construction management business like you see in South Florida, where people see the signs. That's a regional business. That's what Tampa is, and that's what Dallas is, and Hawaii. Those are regional businesses. And so you do have to have a rigor and rhythm to communicate to everybody what the play is and what their particular value is to the business.
Yeah, and I was wondering where I was going with that question is I'm trying to think about, you know, as we've grown our business and it spreads out all over the country, maintaining that amazing culture that we built where we could all see each other and you could go to every site and see the people and know at the beginning everybody's name, and then all of a sudden you don't know everybody's name, and then you know you're really relying more and more on your next layers of leadership down to middle management to keep that culture going. So talk about that. Like, how do you keep consistency across the country, across all these different job sites, so customers are all getting the same experience, employees are all getting the same experience, and everybody feels similarly about what's expected?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think a lot of businesses lose this over time because they get complacent. We have a great rigor and rhythm about how we run this business, from quarterly business reviews where the top teams come in, they explain how their business is doing. Then we do every Monday, we get on a call with the top 80 people of the business. What's the velocity of the business? Where's the business heading? So they have constant information all the time. Then we do town halls, and each business will do a town hall. And that means you're bringing people together. They end up having some refreshments afterwards and a good time, I imagine. And then you end up doing CEO updates twice a year.
Okay.
And so those CEO updates I just did one last week, 950 people or 950 different screens were on the call with people in conference rooms. So probably over 1,100 people on the call with an open mic at the end of the open questions. So I will take questions. I usually talk and give an update about the business for 25 minutes and then answer questions for about 45 minutes.
Oh, that's great.
But all of that rigor and rhythm gives an opportunity for people to get information about where the business is heading, so they feel a part of it, a belonging, and they own part of the business because they make a difference in where the business is heading. So with that, that's how you keep the culture the same. especially as you've grown from 2 people or 3 people to 2,000. We also invested in HR significantly and communications over the past three years because we knew this big jump was going to happen.
Right. Got it. And then in our prior conversations, you talked about creating an environment where people go above and beyond.
Yeah. I call it discretionary effort.
You call it discretionary effort.
Yeah.
I didn't want to take your terminology.
Yeah.
I love that terminology.
Yeah.
How do you create an environment where you get discretionary effort just because, right?
You have to also make discretionary effort really easy to give.
Okay.
Right? And so if you make it hard to give, if you make it hard on their families for them to watch somebody give discretionary effort and not get rewarded for it, you're not going to get discretionary effort last time. So winning the hearts and minds, and how do you do that? You have great benefits. You have great people to answer the phone if their wife or loved one has an issue with healthcare or whatever. You give benefits of having maybe a Christmas party or maybe a party where people get together and they celebrate. All of this makes it easy for someone to give discretionary effort. Then you also don't get super rigid on how their paid time off is. Their PTO is, if you're really busy, everyone knows, like, we're really busy, turn over a project. We know we have to finish it. And then we get loose about, how does PTO work and how does it doesn't work. And so when you make it easy to operate inside the business, they give the discretionary effort really easily.
And would you say, there's bigger companies in your space, there's bigger companies in my space. I find that the bigger companies in my space tend to suck the entrepreneurial life out of their people. Yeah. There's too much bureaucracy, there's too much red tape, meetings to talk about the next meeting. What kind of autonomy do you give them kind of at the regional level, at the job site level, to make them really own what they're doing?
We're a top 40 contractor in the United States, so there's only 40 of us, or they say top 50, but there's 50 contractors of that size. I would say probably about 20% have the same entrepreneurial spirit, and you have to build it into your system. So if that's your strategy, you have to have the right structure, and some of those people have the right structure. So at the regional level, vice presidents can decide that they're going to pay somebody. Think about that as an autonomy that when you get to a large organization, you have 15 people you have to go to just to get a check. They can get somebody paid if they need to do something for the job. Now, they're also held accountable. What we don't want to do is make a person that didn't sign up for that job to make that determination. Now that's a rule that they have to follow, and they're stopping production. Well, we're paying this individual a lot of money and rewarding that person for their brains and everything. So they should be able to use their brains. Yeah. And they're held accountable. They get put on a list of saying, hey, they paid somebody before something happened. But they have the right to do that because we think it's the right thing to do is if they're allowed to sign a $100 million contract, then they're allowed to pay somebody. Yeah. A lot of these companies get that wrong, which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
And then talk about, bringing in, up and coming talent along the way, people growing with the company. I know you have a lot of people who've been with you since the beginning.
Yeah, since the beginning.
Since the beginning, which is amazing.
Yeah, we have, I was looking at a list, close to 30 people that have been there for 20 years.
Wow.
And over 150 have been there 10 years. And so when you think about that, it's 180 people that have been over that time period. So we grew a lot from, in 2011, we were about 175 million of revenue. Okay. And 142 people. And so when you go from 2011 to today, close to 3.7 billion and 5,000 people. Wow. So imagine how many people you've hired. It shows you how clear we are on our values and what our main purpose is, and we've kept them really simple.
Yeah, and I guess the people that are coming in, they can look ahead of them and above them to see people that came in at their level and have accelerated through the firm and grown and taken on more responsibility. Yep. And it's got to give them a vision of what's possible, right? Yeah. Talk a little bit about I learned recently that your company was actually chosen for a Harvard Business Review case study, which is pretty amazing. Congratulations!
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how that came about and why they chose your company to study.
Yeah. I have been for the past 8 years going to, and it'll be my 9th year coming up in January, to Harvard with YPO, Young Presidents Organization. Yep. They have a Harvard program that's amazing. The people that put it on are amazing. The people from Harvard that put it on are amazing. And you bring in 200 different CEOs from around the world. I ended up thinking about what business challenge Moss has had or is going to have for about 5 years, from 2020 to 2025. We're going to have to grow close to 4 times. And I had a lot of young leaders that it's either I hire above them or I start to give them some training of different ways to think about the business. And we had a Harvard professor, Boris Groysberg, amazing man. He came in and did sessions for us, sometimes Zoom, sometimes in person, 4 times a year. And we would do 2 case studies or a lecture and a case study every time. To give those younger leaders some ways, some frameworks to think about the business that they're leading, and then how should they think about the business. We would leave those business cases, and then we would make changes in our business. And it was fun when people would pair it back to business case that we just did and said, just like Boris said, this, and this is why we should make this decision. A lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. And are you including some of the more senior leaders in the
top 100 people?
Top 100 people.
The top 100 people in the business.
Got it.
And then after a while, Boris got to know the business pretty well. We had done some survey work and some interesting things, and he'd read enough. And he said, Scott, there's a business case here. And I said, listen, Boris, I appreciate that you have an affinity for the business. Thank you. But if you're doing it for a compliment, we're good. We don't need a business case for a compliment. He goes, Scott, I'm Russian. I don't do compliments. And I'm like, okay, I get it. He goes, I only do bestsellers. Okay, even funnier. Right, yeah. And so he said, listen, there's 4 or 5 things that you can learn out of your business case. And one of them was that idea that we focus on the team members' experience that drives really good customer service. Close to 80% repeat business is what we have going on. And he said, you guys, I don't even think you worry about the shareholders. And the shareholders get a really good return for the efforts of all the people in the business.
Is that going to be like a book that you can go online and buy?
You can go online right now and buy the business case. You can buy the business case. Now, you may not get the teaching notes, so you may have to hire Boris to come teach it in your company, and he's hard to get on a schedule. So, but he's a great teacher.
Where you guys are going now, right? You've come a long way.
Yeah.
The challenges and opportunities you had 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, they're all changing constantly.
Way
right?
different, yeah.
Did you ever think you'd be the largest solar developer in the country? I mean, how did that even come about?
Solar contractor.
Developer.
Yeah. Developers are customers.
Right.
Love those guys.
No, sorry about that, guys. I apologize. Contractor. You're building this stuff.
When you talk about how the challenges change over time, we actually what version of Moss people are in. So then they understand that yesterday's Moss is not today's Moss. So we're on 8.0 right now. So it's Moss 8.0. And as the market changes the business, because we are just the tail, we don't create demand.
Right.
We have to follow where demand is. It's usually around demographics and power demands. Those are the 2 things that really drive our business. And we have to change the version of Moss that we're in, and also signal to the people that are in the business, hey, there's going to change things around a little bit. The print button may move. So you need to know that this version of Moss may not be the same. The values are the same. You should be treated the same. You should feel the same. Just know things will be a little bit rearranged. And it's gone really well because it's helped change management. When you start off with a business that people are so connected to when it's a top 100, and then you'll hear often, this space has changed. Well, we better have, because if we don't change, extinction is in your future.
Yeah. And what do you think are some of the kind of, think about 9.0? I mean, what are the challenges that kind of you see in front of you right now, and how are you preparing yourselves and your team to be ready to take those on? Because I feel like I feel like we all have so many things coming at us that we never anticipated were even going to be,
Oh, you didn't have tariffs on your bingo card? I mean,
tariffs,
it's kind of
AI, right?
Yeah,
I know
kind of hard to tell what a building's going to be at the end of the day when the tariffs change, weekly.
Yeah,
Right?
without a doubt, and it's really fascinating to see how AI is going to impact different businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Like how do you prepare your leadership team, and how do you prepare yourselves, as the owners to be ready for whatever's coming? Because there's always going to be
there's always going to be change.
Yeah,
there's always going to be. So it's first accepting that there's always going to be something.
Okay.
The second thing is we have built up over time, and I say this a lot often, is it's easier to run a bigger company than it is a smaller company. We can build up leadership resilience, and right now we have great leadership resilience. There's not much that you could throw at us that happens inside of our gates that we can't handle. Like we have enough leadership resilience to grow all these businesses from a leadership standpoint and a thought process that I think is really good. We can't do anything about the stuff that's outside the gate, like tariffs, immigration policy, AI. All of that, we can react to AI. The other two, all you can do is react after the fact.
Interest rates are either going to go down, they're going to go up, they're going to stay the same. You don't get to decide, right?
Yeah. So we don't look at doing amazing for just 1 year. We look at how can this business be a ongoing business for decades to come. So I am a big believer in infinite thinking. And if you start to think about a business in an infinite way, not just in a way to cash out in 5 years, it really changes where you focus your time, focus your energy, especially as a CEO. It definitely changes. And I know tons of respect for people that are doing a finite business. Hey, I'm going to grow this to this and I'm going to sell it. That's a strategy that you need to be just okay with, right? Our strategy is more infinite. And
so what I'm hearing from you is if you keep your values the same and the expectations for your leaders and your employees, how they should be treated, how they should treat the customer, how they should show up every day, if that all stays the same and you have longevity and not a lot of turnover, then you can pretty much handle anything that comes your way, right?
Yeah, that's a theory.
So, we were talking about your resilience and ability to kind of handle anything that's coming on by having great people who stick around. I think about what the audience is looking for, right? The audience is trying to figure out how do I do a better job of keeping my employees around? Like what's the secret sauce? Like how is Moss doing it?
One of the things that we do is we're super transparent. We give the information out to the top 150 people of how the business is doing, all the way down to the profit, and what do we spend the overhead on every year. Of course, we don't share salaries and bonuses, but everyone kind of feel like this is part of it. We do share that if you were to look at how the top 120 people did, and you said, okay, how much profit did we make? Close to 30 to 40% of that profit actually gets put to the people that are working in the business.
That's great.
That's a number, right? And so when you think about that, that's really living up to the first thing we talked about was honoring the team members' a contribution here. And so when you do that, and then you show them transparency, then you show them the numbers, and then the words match kind of what the actions are, then it's a pretty easy sell to the teammates. And there is amazing efficiency in long-term employees that believe in the mission. There's a lot of people that do a lot for this mission. It's just not me and Bob and Chad. We've had people, move. Like some people live in Tampa, even though they're running a business in maybe Dallas or soon to be Nashville, and or there's a person that could have been totally fine running a big business in South Florida. Now he's going to take on extra work, and so. Our top leadership team continues to step up to think about the mission, not so much about themselves. And that's kind of how we've been able to keep people for a long time. Autonomy is another big one, and the freedom to do things the way they would want to do them. We give them the values, and sometimes it gets a little messy, right? And that's okay. Success is a little messy as long as it's not sloppy.
So would you say it's an environment where it's okay to fall down and fail?
Very much so.
As long as you learn from it and
very much so.
Okay.
Very much so.
Look, some places people are scared to take chances and
Yeah,
scared to
that's
fail.
not. Yeah, that's that. If you said the ethos of a business is fear, I'm out on that. Right, from a place of leaving at a better place than I found it. Running a business with fear as the primary motivator is not something we're in for.
Yeah, no, for sure. Say you're talking to other CEOs, but
Yeah.
you might be talking to a middle manager who's on the rise. Maybe
Yeah.
they're in executive management in some other capacity.
Yeah.
What would be the number one piece of advice that you would give to anyone who's responsible for leading people,
Wow.
growing a team, helping a company succeed? What would you share with them?
I think over time, for some reason, we've lost the idea that people are human. I don't know how we got here. I think it started probably with the phone, where people would get yelled at and you couldn't see the damage that you were doing to them from an interpersonal place, right? I've been on plenty of those phone calls in the construction world. And then we moved to maybe email and then text, where it gets even less personal.
Oh, way worse.
Right, way worse. And now
stuff they would never say to your face.
But yeah, and now we've gone even more to we've gone to social media. And so behind every person, that's someone's son or daughter, husband or wife, brother or sister. And so when you think about it in those terms, if you're leading people, how would you want your son or daughter treated? Right? How would you want your mom or dad? And I think if you start to lead with that heart and not with this idea of how can I pay this person the least amount to get this done for me? I don't think you would want to pay your mom or dad the least amount to get something done for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the one parting kind of comment as I think about people's leadership style and what we need to think about on a go-forward basis.
Yeah, look,
for humanity.
I think about what people go through. My company's a lot smaller, and I don't think we can get through a week where we don't learn that somebody's dealing with some sort of health issue, either themselves or their family. Maybe their spouse lost their job. Maybe their mom's in the hospital. You never know what people are going through, and some people are very private and they don't share it, and they might just be suffering, and maybe their performance isn't there. Maybe they look exhausted. Maybe they're not really showing up like they normally do. And the instinct of most managers is to come down on them, be really hard on them. Right? And I tell folks in our company, it's like, well, why don't you check on them? Make sure. Why don't you see if they're okay first?
Yeah. Why don't we do well-being first?
Right, let's do a well-being check. Why don't you have no idea what people are going through, and I tend to know because I learn about all it and reach out to people and make sure they're okay. But it's just amazing, these aren't robots. It's not AI. These are people.
Not yet.
these are people dealing with some real life stuff going on, and it's like you need to be supportive and encouraging and be there for them, right?
Yeah.
The people aspect of managing people forget about that part.
Yeah, they do.
So that's really, really fascinating. Well, thank you, Scott, for joining us.
Yeah.
It's really fun hanging out and talking about this stuff with you. Obviously, I've admired the company a long time, so it's great to hear some of the philosophies that got you there.
Thank you.
For everybody who tuned in today, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate the viewership. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and maybe make a comment. It'd be great if you follow us going forward. Maybe go to the Stephen Douglas website or our LinkedIn account, and hopefully you'll join us in the future. We've got some other great leaders lined up that are going to be joining us soon. And my biggest thing is I hope you got some take-home value, and I hope these are some of the things you can implement in your own businesses. So thanks for joining us, and see you again soon.